All right, everybody, welcome to CyberBulls. We have so many great topics to talk about today. The big one, of course, is Ford and GM just dropped their earnings. Another question people have been asking is Tesla going to do any more price cuts in the future? We also want to ask if you think that the X branding on Twitter is a disaster in the making. So what we have here is our CyberBull friends, my bull friends here together. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
What's up, Herbert? What's up, everybody?
Hello. Christian had an image consultant.
Yeah.
Love the hat, Christian.
I didn't listen.
So first off, let's start talking about Tesla. We had the Ford and GM earnings. We're going to see if you guys think that there's going to be additional price cuts in Tesla. And then also, do you believe that Elon, when he says that FSD is real? And finally, what event do you think is going to come up next? Which one are they going to announce next? So let's get started with the Ford and GM earnings. Go ahead. Who saw it to you first? I think you, Jeff. Why don't you share with us what you saw about this?
Well, they both, GM beat and raised. And this is the second time that they've raised guidance in the year. They don't break out their EV business, but I think it's pretty clear in terms of what their shipments are. They're very small. But in terms of guiding in the overall auto business, they guided strong. They have strong revenue, strong earnings. And then, so it's just interesting, in terms of, their input to where they see the auto market and maybe where Tesla and other companies see it. So, GM was the first out of the gate, and then Ford announced as well. And, going through their earnings, looks like they also had a beat on the top and bottom line, haven't gone through the guidance yet on that one. And it looks like their gross margins are improving in their EV business, but they're highly negative still. So anyway, more to come. But I think, if you look at these companies, my kind of key takeaway is look at where they were pre-pandemic and try to understand, is there meaningful growth? Because 2020 was obfuscated with COVID. 2021 was, supply chain challenges. 2022, they also had supply chain challenges. So it's really hard to do a year-on-year comp with any of these companies. So that's why I say kind of look at where they were in revenue and EPS. And what you'll find is that basically MSRPs have drifted up over the last 4 or 5 years. Units are down, flat to down, and their revenues aren't meaningfully higher at all. So I mean, as an investor, you have to understand, like, what are you paying for, and then you have to factor in the debt side of it. So I'll pause there.
Before I get to Christian and Alexandra, maybe I should set the stage here. So GM reported their earnings. You can see that they're $44.7 billion of revenue compared to Tesla's at $25 billion. Tesla's catching up. But the net income, Tesla's already beating GM. So even though they're selling more and they have 3 times more cars sold, they have the same profit at this point than Tesla. So Tesla is really just the margin king here. And if you look at their proposal of how many EVs that they're projected to do, this is quarterly. Their target by Q4 2025 is 250,000 per quarter. So that's 1 million per year, and they're nowhere near. So, I don't know how they're going to catch up to what they're projecting to get there. And then, of course, Ford just dropped their earnings as well, and they beat their earnings 72 cents versus 55 cents expected. Auto revenue was higher as well at 42 billion versus 40. Their earnings, they did lose more money at negative $1.1 billion for their EV unit, but at least the margin is no longer as terrible as it was in Q1 of 102% reduction, now to 58%. So they sold a total of 34,000 EVs in Q2. And you can see here, as you look at the numbers there, again, Q1 was weirdly low, revenues up, everything's better. So it's, this just by cursory glance, it looks like that the EV unit of Ford is doing better. What did you think, Christian?
Yeah, no, I think Jeff did a good synopsis, and I think you did too, Herbert. I think that the main problem here is the numbers were good, right? Ford, if you just look at what the expectations were, Ford, I saw that one more. They killed it on revenue, right? Free cash flow is good. Their earnings good. They did raise their guidance. They were looking to make a few, 2 to 3 billion more than what they were saying before. So, all that was good. The problem is with these businesses because they're not being valued, for what they're doing in cash flow, right? So it's like they're trying to make money on the ICE side of the business to fund their EV business, right? But the public markets really don't give them any credit, right? Because the EV business, they're so slow, all the market cap has gone to Tesla, right? Who started with EVs, they're scaling EVs. And to invest in these other companies, you have to believe that they're going to be able to fund their EV business by making lots of money with their internal combustion engine business, right? So that's the trick to it. They got to keep funding that business, but that's the catch-22 because they need to spend more money on the EV business to be valued at a higher valuation by investors. But that means giving up some of the internal combustion engine business. This is the problem with the Fords, the GMs, whatever you want to say, the legacy autos, is that they need the money from the ICE business to fund the EV business. But as soon as they go to the EV business, they don't make any money. So they're trying to break away, and this is very difficult to do. We give Ford credit for breaking out the EV. GM does not do that yet. So we can see that their EV business is improving. So they're going in the right direction. And the trick is for them, can they do it before we have, possibly a major recession where, like Jeff said, they've been raising prices like crazy. Unit volumes are going nowhere. So if the consumer pulls back on the internal combustion engine business for whatever reason, and we go into a downturn, I'm not calling for that to happen, but that's the risk of Ford and GM, right? Cars are the first thing to go in any type of a slowdown environment, and that would really hamper their business and would really hamper them to develop their EV side of it. So I think that's the risk for these companies, and I think that's why their stocks have gone nowhere in over a decade.
Yeah, very, very well explained from both of you. Let me add to that we had in the beginning of the third quarter, so not included in these results yet, the price cuts from the Fords. So they now have to adjust to more affordable EV competition from Tesla. So yet putting another, stress factor on their EV margins. So the issue they have is they're constantly running behind the train. And Christian said it well. They try to balance between ICE revenues, which are still artificially high. I mean, somehow this pandemic allowed them to ride that horse longer than we all expected, which all good for them. But on the other side, they have the issue of the affordability of the EV cars.
Okay, let's move on. Ford and GM, very interesting. Numbers looked actually good on the surface anyways. So let's talk Tesla. So what do you guys think? I mean, one of the biggest concerns I've been hearing from folks is that they're still afraid that Tesla is going to continue to do price cuts in the future, that it's still about to come. I'm just curious from each one of you, is this something you guys are thinking about, or are they done with price cuts, or what is your position? Let's start with you, Alexandra.
The price cuts will come. Elon was very clear about that in the earnings call, said if the Fed is continuing to raise rates, affordability of cars is impacted because obviously 80% of cars are financed. And so if rates go up, the financing will become more expensive, and Tesla still has a lot of room to cut prices, and he will do it. And that was the big thing where institutional investors, couldn't understand it. I had a couple of discussions with Gary, who was explaining to me, it's all good to cut prices if it's linked to cost of goods sold, if they come down, but if it is linked to affordability, it's not something that institutional investors understand and appreciate. Well, the normal person does understand and appreciate because he has to pay the monthly payment. So yes, I expect Tesla cars to come down, especially Model 3s. We are now having the first factory closing for upscaling, so they will, sell what they can before the new Highland will come out or whatever else upgrades come out. There are lots of rumors swirling. I don't want to, emphasize on those, but I do expect further price cuts this quarter. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I did not expect you to say that, Jeff. Please tell me otherwise.
Well, I think the move. Just one more quick comment on Ford is, after that quarter ended, they did a $10,000 MSRP reduction on the F-150. So
Right.
maybe too soon to celebrate where they're at on margins. That's a big move. In terms of Tesla, I think on the pricing side, it's possible. Of course, it's possible that there may be more moves on pricing. But what I liked in the last quarter was the acceleration in COGS reduction, and actually COGS reductions overtaking the rate of MSRP reductions. If you remember, there were pretty sizable MSRP reductions in the configurator in April in Q2, and COGS still held firm. And then there was also inventory reductions on thousands of cars, at the end of the quarter. Yet, margins, basically show that they were troughing in that quarter. So I like the acceleration that they have on COGS reductions. And again, it's not there's a couple of different worlds where these come from. They come from the inbound commodity side. They also come from the event-driven side, things that their engineering team does, things that their supply chain teams do, things that Tom Zhu's factories teams and what they do, and the actual filling up of Berlin and Austin will also take the COGS per vehicle down meaningfully, and more and increased localization. So the short answer to your question is there may be more, but I think they would be smaller. And what I liked is the fact that the COGS reductions I think are really starting to overtake it. And then finally, there are new model introductions that we believe are coming with vehicles at lower price points, both in the near term and of course what's coming with Generation 3, I think is going to really solve the issue of having the right cars at the right MSRP slots more organically.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I believe as well. The cost reductions is coming. There's going to be maybe small maneuvers to lower the price cut, but not the big ones anymore. In fact, what I think you were saying though, Alexandra, was that that they're going to be able to reduce the prices because they're going to start introducing the new models, right? The new Model 3 and then possibly the Gen 2 next year. So Christian, I want to ask you because I know that you really care a lot about the margins.
No, do you want me to answer the question? You want me to answer that?
No,
Okay.
This is set up for the same question, which is I know that you're such a big deal about margins. And so are you, one of the things you're concerned about is that there are going to be more margin compression with more price cuts. That's why I wanted to ask you, because I know this is a big deal for you.
So no, I respect that question. So I think I don't care about it as much anymore because they've done so much. A little bit more, it's not going to be a big issue to me, because here's the way I look at it. The original question is, will they do it? I think they might. I mean, Elon's talked about autonomy being like the value of Tesla. And that's a big statement, right? Because that's a risky statement. Because if Tesla, basically all the value is pretty much to autonomy of the car, that's a gamble, right? So I don't agree with that. I think Tesla has value, but he always talks about it like that. And he talks about demand being there, but affordability, right? And he's been talking about, the model is like the razor blade. Give the razor away, and then you make all the money with the razor blade. Same thing. You give almost the cars away, not away, but you make, maybe not as much as you could, and then you hit them with the software later. So I think that's what Elon's doing. So your question is, will he cut prices as the Fed keeps raising interest rates? And we don't know when they're going to be done. Maybe they do another one, maybe they don't, but Elon hinted that, again, with tweets saying that it was the wrong move. He's talked about on the conference call, if interest rates go up, for affordability, we might have to, take price down. I'm not calling for that, but I could see it definitely happening. That's Elon's MO so far. So absolutely, I don't think it'll matter because the market's probably already reckoned that they're going to reduce price. So I think it's minimal hit to the stock unless they do a huge one. And margins really go down. If they can just kind of maintain in this area and let all these other stories play out, I think they'll be fine. But it is definitely a risk because if autonomy doesn't play out, let's just play it out. I don't believe this, but this is a hard problem. If it doesn't play out and it doesn't go exactly the way Elon wants it to, then you basically have an auto business, an energy business, and the develop of bot, which maybe a couple of years out, 2-3 years out before we see any meaningful revenues from that product. So you have a business that's valued at 800 billion plus, and it basically would be the auto business and the energy business, which is growing. But if you don't get some of these other things to happen as quick, if they're focused on the margins, you could see a stock hit. But hopefully that Elon with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, that doesn't take place, because you're getting $7,500 off the car. You're getting these COGS improvements that Jeff talks about, and he's very expert in that. You shouldn't need much more price unless we do go into a major downturn. And it doesn't look like we're in a major downturn, even with all these rate increases. We haven't really felt it in the economy. So I don't know. We'll talk about it later. EV education, right? We hear about, EVs being a great product. Tesla has great value for the EV, but it seems like the demand is there, but they're always talking about lower price. I think it does have something to do with education. I know some people disagree with that, but I think if people knew that the EV products, such as a Tesla Model 3, what the cost was, what you got for it, the beautiful software inside, the beautiful sleek screens, the no gas, no oil changes, I think that would move the needle for more people to adopt it. That's just my opinion.
I love it. You know why I love it so much, Christian? Because
Why?
you're saying exactly what everything Elon said on the earnings call. Alexandra, this is why Elon needs to be at the earnings call. Listen to him, Christian, right? This is a guy now saying the things that he understands, that this is about the razor blade model. Right?
It was a great rant, Christian. You're right. You got it. And I mean, I agree with you, Herbert, that for us retail investors, having Elon on the call is great. I'm all for it. The problem is the earnings call the right audience for that? I know we're getting to that later, so we're going to discuss later.
Okay, so we have Xander not able to join us today because he's actually driving his car right now as he's about to prepare his move to go to Austin from California. But he had to dial in. He's listening in, and he made a quick comment about you, Christian. He said, "Why are you wearing an Under Armour hat?"
It's the best hat I have. I need to get a haircut, so I'm wearing a hat.
You're supposed to get the Tesla merch. That's what you're supposed to be using, buddy. Come on, get with it.
I'm sure it's in the mail. It's coming. It's held up.
Okay. I gave you a gift card. You're supposed to use that. Okay, that's what it's for.
Oh, they got a gift card too, not only me.
Oops. I gave it to all of you. What do you mean you didn't know that?
Guys, I thought it was because I won that poll. Oh my God.
You won the poll, but everybody's a winner. Okay, come on.
Okay.
I not.
We're in America, true. Everybody's a winner all the time.
I like preschool rules.
Trophies, participation.
Love
Alexander,
participation
you're so competitive.
trophies.
You're pissed off at me.
I won the poll. I won the poll. That's the only thing that's important. Let me put my crown on.
No, listen, you cheat.
I don't cheat.
Well, I wouldn't call it cheating, but you pushed it to your side because I told you not to retweet it.
Oh,
and
I
you
would.
retweeted it to your 70,000 followers, who's obviously, and you said you know what to do. So come on, you can't do that.
Herbert, 75,000.
Get it right.
Get it right.
I still have paper ballots coming in. I think I'm going to win.
And I believe Jeff voted for me. Jeff voted for me that I'm his favorite CyberBull. So that's on the record.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what we say. It was a runaway, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, please, for you guys, you got some voucher as well. Get that merch.
That's what it's for, Christian. Okay, so talking about this, what you just said, right?
I just found it. I didn't know you sent it. Okay.
I know. So you don't look at your emails. You don't look at anything. Gosh, get back to the real world.
He has to find the hat, Herbert.
Christian's going to buy Chipotle with it.
You do not buy stocks unless it's Tesla. Okay, do not, please. All right. So what you just said was exactly correct, right? Tesla made a decision to go volume versus margins, and they did that because they believe that they're going to be margins in the future because of FSD. So the question I want to ask you guys is, how do each of you feel? How much do you believe that FSD is real? That it's actually something that's happening? Now, Elon has said that it's going to happen this year. Maybe you don't have to say this year, but by next year. Do you guys think that FSD is real and it's going to happen by next year? Because if it isn't, I know that, Christian, there was a little bit of doubt in your voice whether or not it's going to happen in the future. But if it isn't, then margins won't come until much, much later. Mm-hmm. So why don't we start with you, Alexandra?
So I have subscribed to FSD 3 weeks ago. I'm on version 11.3.6. Currently, they have already, most of the cars have 11.4.4, and for 2 days now, 11.4.6 has been rolling out. I still find my version edgy in smaller roads, up the hills, more difficult scenarios, but on the freeway and on the main streets, I find it quasi-perfect. I obviously oversee it, but I don't have to intervene. I feel comfortable with it now after 3 weeks. I'm impatiently waiting for the updates because I don't want to, film with a version that most people don't have anymore. It's really confusing which car can get which version and whatever. I don't want to bore people with it, but it starts to feel very real. And I am a cautious old lady for these things. I'm not easy to be convinced on something technological. There seems to be another major step for version 12. Elon tweeted on Thursday morning that he is testing himself now the version 12 alpha version and finds it mind-blowing. Not first time that he characterized an upgrade with mind-blowing, but I do believe we come to a very specific state now because Dojo is active. The neural network seems to really be picking up. You remember I was involved in that improvement within the same version of that intersection, which worked, and then which suddenly worked at intersection in Florida, in Canada, and whatever. So there's something happened from learning that one intersection, and it didn't there was no necessity for an upgrade for everybody, yet the system became better. So I do believe the whole learning rhythm is now there. And if version 12 is not beta anymore, which he announced, right? He said once we get to version 12, it's not going to be beta anymore. Now he is testing version 12 because our argument then was, well, fair enough, you can do as many 11.4 versions as you want, right? You can hang, I don't know how many numbers behind that starting numbers. But if we are already testing version 12, I do believe this is becoming very real. Now, is it December 2023 or is it March 2024? Does it matter? No, it doesn't. I would strongly advise that if somebody doesn't believe that FSD is going to be a major revenue bringer for Tesla within 3 and 5 years, don't buy the stock. Because if you value the stock only as being a car maker, only getting car sales revenues with this Razor model, Elon can push that Razor model to a much lower margin model if he feels that's needed to get the cars on the road. You won't be happy with that valuation. But if you believe FSD is coming, and then obviously from FSD, the bots are coming in, all the other businesses, and energy is obviously picking up, but energy will always remain a 20-25% margin business. That's not going to be the major margin business from Tesla. So if you don't believe in FSD, it's very complicated to see the stock price increase to the levels that I can see it increase.
I just want to say that, first of all, thank you, Alexandra, because right when that debacle happened with Dowd and Ross, and that they took that one intersection and they made a big deal out of it. They were on CNBC and every show you can think of, and you immediately put the fire out because you went out there. Luckily, it was near your community, and you were able to do those tests, and then it seemed to have been resolved. So thank you for doing that, because if it wasn't for you, at least you played a little bit of a part, if not a big one too.
Thank you. Yeah, they wanted to ride that horse. Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's ask you, Jeff. I'm going to ask Christian. I may not even ask Christian because the guy does not have FSD. So,
but no, that's a good reason to ask me, Herbert, because I would take most people that invest in Tesla don't have it. So looking out someone who doesn't have it would be a good viewpoint. Actually, you would want to hear from
you got lots of good points today. Damn it, so many good points. Okay, let's go with you, Jeff, first.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I like Alexandra's points and do appreciate her leadership on the topic too. Couple things. One, if you evaluate FSD using linear logic, you're going to fail at it because it's not linear anymore. And with the ramp up of neural nets and just Tesla's overall approach from a COGS perspective, they have an approach that will win economically and that will actually be able to scale in volume. And as I scan and look at the other full self-driving solutions, I can't figure out how they're going to get the economics right on the client side in the car and at the infrastructure side. Whereas Tesla is working both of those angles, and I believe they've got the they already have the economics to the point where they can ship it in the car with it not even turned on and still make great gross margins without even selling the package. Now, let's look at the numbers. The last reported user population that Tesla reported, to my knowledge, was in January 2023 of this year, where they said there was approximately 400,000 downloads of FSD. Now, at that time, there was only about 1.6 to 1.7 million cars in the U.S., in North America, that were available to take the FSD download. They had the appropriate hardware in the car to be able to take the download. So that's 1 in 4. That's 25% with a beta software solution, with something that has bugs, something that's got an engineering issues list that needs to be resolved. And now you take the progress from where we were in January to where we are in July, and when this gets out of beta, I can see that attach rate continuing to grow. And you don't necessarily need it to be a robotaxi network. If you want the ability for your car to drive, let's say you're tired, let's say there's been you've had some alcohol or whatever. I'm not prescribing you should not be behind the wheel of your car if you've had. I'm just talking about if there's situations where you're tired or you just don't want to drive. FSD is a solution. You still have to supervise it at this point. But it is a solution, and it has real value. And I purchased it on my cars, and I will continue to purchase it either in the upfront form or the subscription form on my cars. And I think as it gets to its full instantiation of functionality, I think more and more people are going to see it. I just gave a ride to about 3 or 4 friends of the family that have number one, they've never been in a Tesla. And number 2, they've never seen full self-driving. They saw the yoke in my car moving left and right, and they saw the car driving in city streets, and their jaws hit the floor. So I think the awareness of this is still extremely low, because most people are just aware of kind of a hands-free system on the highway that most vehicle manufacturers offer, and they're not aware of what Tesla has. And so again, it comes down to it has a pretty good attach rate. The improvements are not going to be linear, and Tesla has the only economically scalable solution. So those are the 3 reasons, why I believe in FSD, and I believe in it in its relation to the company and its value.
Yeah. So did you hear that, Christian? I love that.
I did hear that.
He's saying that even if robotaxi doesn't happen, the margins will still flow. Additional margins will still flow to Tesla because of just ADAS, because of FSD take rate, because it's helpful. So how exactly does somebody who doesn't have a Tesla, who just never tried FSD, how exactly are you going to be able to tell me if FSD is real or not? Go ahead.
And somebody who eats at Chipotle?
So I don't look. There's a lot of experts. I've done a lot of research on it, but it's very, superficial, right? I watch the videos. I hear experts talk about it on different channels, and here's what I'll say. Is it getting better? Yes. But again, it goes to, I believe it'll happen, but there is risk to it, right? There's regulatory risk. We know that, they're always NHTSA's doing stuff, investigations. I'm not saying that Tesla's in jeopardy or anything, but it is a risk, right? When you're betting the company on cars driving themselves around, and that's kind of what you're saying, because I agree with Jeff that it's a value to have, but I don't know if people are willing to spend $15,000 to have it, because again, it goes to awareness. It goes, do people even want it? A lot of people like to drive their cars. A lot of people enjoy that feeling of driving, to be honest. Is it safer? Of course, but you still have to convince people that this is essential to their life, right? And the only way you can do that is to get this technology so good that it becomes a no-brainer. And we're not at that point yet where it's a no-brainer and the technology is so good. Again, just from what I watch, it still makes a lot of mistakes. Again, I'm not trying to be negative. All I'm saying is it's not there yet. And I personally don't think it'll be there by the end of this year. That's just my view. I think it's still going to take more time, more data. You got to remember the road. There's so many things going on our highways, on our roads, signs, and like the March of Nines that Elon talks about. I understand you have to be optimistic to push the team to get it done. Otherwise, this will take decades. But this is a very hard problem, and you have people's lives on the line. That's why I think bot to me is the safer bet, because bot is less risky, right? If you get a bot to work, not to change subject, but real fast, if you can get bot to work, there's no one really afraid of the bot, right? Like it's going to help you, it's going to be servicing to you. The car is thousands of pounds of metal that can really hurt people, right? So you're only 1 or 2 incidents away from changing the shift of the population to go against it. So I think it's a great thing and it's going to save a lot of lives, but there is still risk with it. And so many things could go wrong on these roads. That's all I'll say. I think it's going to happen, but gosh, do I want to make a bet on what year? Like, do I want to put a probability on it? I would say this is still more, 25, 26 before we're really at that level. That's just my opinion.
Okay. The only real answer to this question is that absolutely it's real and it is absolutely coming at this point. So I've never been more confident about this than I have been today. And first of all, there's a couple things, right? Is you can't say that I've watched these videos of people driving FSD. I myself is using FSD and I see all the problems that it still has. You should not be doing that. That is a mistake, because you're not talking about the software you're using today. You're talking about what can happen in the near future. And you don't look at what has progressed in the last year to decide what's going to happen in the future. So when Jeff said that, is people with linear thinking, you're not going to get there. You're right. But the things that we've been hearing from Ashok, the director of Autopilot, and what they've showed was that they've completely taken everything that they've done in the past and now they've added this brand new thing where the system is teaching itself now. And it taught itself how to recognize 3-dimension. It taught itself how to recognize paper flying, and so I could drive through it. It taught itself how to recognize fog and drive through it without any input. Nope, nothing required. The system is learning on itself. So when somebody says, don't you know that there's 9 nines after 99.9 in the March of Nines? Yes, we all know that. And then how's it possible? Well, because the system is teaching itself. So it's like it's pretty well at this point. I'm so confident it's going to happen. That's my opinion. So I appreciate your opinion.
No, and I agree. And let me just couch it.
Most people will say
I said I believed in it. We got to be, because it sounds worse than what I said. I said I believe in it. I just said it's going to take 25, 26. Remember, we're almost in 2024. This is not that far. What I'm saying is, I'm just saying, to me, it's going to take a little bit longer. Plus, you got to look, the public, it's not so easy just to tell the public, hey, we're going to let these things happen. Usually you might need, look, am I wrong in saying this? If you're going to have cars driving around American roads on highways with level 4, level 5, essentially it's driving itself with no supervision, right? That's what a robo-taxi is. You might need, and I'm just being realistic, you might need government hearings. You might need to go through a process. No?
You don't. No, Christian.
No, okay.
Cruise is already approved in 7 cities. It's already happening. Robotaxi is here.
Okay.
Right?
And if I may add, there is actually a difference between
You can go ahead and use your app, order a cruise, and it comes and picks you up, drives without anybody in the wheel.
Well, there's a Waymo, but it's very limited. It's in very select cities. Yeah, they're doing very small volumes, and it's going nowhere. It's going nowhere.
No, I know it's not going anywhere, but I'm saying to you that it's happening now. So they've already pushed the bar to the point that there's cities willing to try this.
Let me add 2 things. First of all, I do believe it's going to go in 2 stages. FSD as a monthly subscription for Teslas that are eligible, and that will have it as a monthly subscription with the first month free to test it. That is, for me, the most imminent event that's going to happen, and will happen somewhere in the next 12 months. After that, scaling it up to level 4 and making it robotaxi, who knows when that happens? Because that could also be dependent on who else is going to license the software. And if it gets licensed by, let's say, Ford, the ability or the reactivity of NHTSA to approve it is going to be so much more improved, right? But what I'm talking about is this non-anymore beta version, this number 12, this version 12, being rolled out to anybody who wants it. And the second thing I want to add is I think we have to move away from the $15,000 option or the upfront purchase option. I think that will not exist much longer. It is now, and that's one of the reasons I do believe that we have this Q3 transferability. It's a present to the old Tesla owners who purchased it long ago or even only last year ago. But those that have been sticking with it and bought it, it is a present to them to put it onto newer cars now for free, to transfer it, because there will be the moment where you will not be able to purchase it anymore, where you can only purchase it on a monthly basis. So it's not about the high cost, the high initial cost anymore. It's going to be monthly revenues.
Yeah, agreed. Any other comments?
I got a quick question. I love what Jeff said, but we do know there's some take rates. And what is the take rate? It's probably, is it even 20%? Why do you think that the take rate on a subscription model is not even greater? And wouldn't you think it would be helpful for Tesla to break that out so it could show investors, hey, look how many people are buying our FSD and look what the possibilities are when we scale this up and more people adopt it? Do you think that eventually will come where they break out the software piece of the revenue model on FSD?
Yeah, no? I think I know this data point gets confusing for people, but they published in their Q4 earnings in January that there are 400,000 active subscribers or downloads to FSD, and FSD is only, I don't know why people are using the world as a denominator. FSD is only available in North America, and it's only available as a subscription in the US. So the denominator at that time was 1.6 to 1.7 million units. So it's about 1 in 4 or 25%. Yeah. That's the last data point. Then they switched to talking about miles driven because that was easier to actually compare as well to Waymo and Cruise.
Yeah,
which they're doing 10 times more miles. I think Tesla is doing in a couple of days what they do in many months. So there's a huge advantage that's growing for Tesla miles.
No, I agree. The only scalable solution is Tesla. I don't worry about these other people. The only thing at scale is Tesla. The only thing I'm saying is, at some point, that like you said, that Chat GPT moment has to happen where everybody goes, "Oh my God!" Like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Everybody needs a Tesla, and everybody needs to be in this car for safety and convenience. I'm just saying, that is the trick. And it's harder than, the ChatGPT moment's a little bit easier because you could just look at your screen and give it a question, give it a query, and see all this and say, well, wow, look at all that in depth it gave me, and it literally took 3 seconds to think about it. Where this is a little bit more tricky because you have people and you have people's lives. And the only thing I'll say is, you also have other drivers, not the system. Like, Tesla could give you the greatest technology in the world, but what if you have a bunch of idiots that can't drive and they bang into the technology? You're always going to have this thing like, well, who was at fault? Is it technology? Of course, it was probably the human, but you can run into problems where this idiot just ran into the Tesla car and there's no way of getting out, and that could cause headlines. And what I'm saying, it's a little bit of a headache to try to get all this done. And I think it's good for investors to at least think about some of the risk rather than just saying, oh, this is a done deal, it's in the bag, robo-taxis in a year. I think that's a little bit pie in the sky.
No, yes, but you, Christian, you remind me that Tesla is not communicating well, because all the questions you are posing have been answered over and over and over again over the last 5 years. And when Elon said in the last earnings call last week that people don't even realize that there is a subscription basis for monthly FSD, it just shows me again and again that there is an issue with communication. If there are, I mean, of course, the 400,000 testers now, they know it because either they acquired it or they're paying the $200. But the fact that the car gets so much safer already now, yes, you have to supervise it, but it also saves you of situation where you as the human driver would have actually put yourself into trouble. And actually saves you in situations where the other people on the road do stupid things, like you said, but the car reacts much quicker because of the 8 cameras and the sensors and the way how quick everything is analyzed, much quicker than the human. So what it is, it's much more a communication problem to convince, what a marvel it is, rather than the issues it could bring with it.
I agree with you. I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate, and I believe in the technology. I'm playing a little bit devil's advocate. I'm also going, you're right, Alexandra. I think communication is terrible on this, because when I leave those conference calls, I don't hear anything about safety. I don't hear anything about,
What?
I mean, I hear about it, but it's not delivered in an appropriate way where I can listen to it coherently. It's in the middle of jokes and haha, or, it's not a message that I can totally delineate because I'm distracted with all this other stuff. I don't know. Again, just call me crazy.
Maybe we should do a Tesla safety day, but we'll get to that. Go ahead, Herbert.
Okay.
But we're definitely going to get to your stuff, how to talk to people, Alexandra, those colors. I think the Tesla conference calls could actually learn, because talk to your audience, right? If you want to get the best out of it. I talked about it last week. I think it is important, rather than just saying, oh, well, doesn't really matter, we're going to rule the world. I think it would be better if, hey, this is the venue. This is what we're trying to accomplish on this venue. And let's try to do the best job we can do to accomplish what we want to get done on this venue, rather than just saying, oh, well, you'll get it when you get it.
Okay, I just want to make a couple of quick points. It's like when somebody what you just said, Christian, I don't like it to hear that, right? When somebody says, well,
I was doing so good. I was doing so good. And now
it's like, when you're an investor, you have to be aware of these risks, and you can't just, just say it's in a bag and it's done. Well, no, because I'm invested in Tesla because of an auto business that's ballooning. It's just growing like crazy, and that part is very successful. And when FSD happens, my investment will 10x, 20x. But if it doesn't happen, I'm not hurt in any way. So I don't know that logic that you just said there. And then secondly, what I think will happen,
I think it was good logic.
Based on everything else ever happened in the past, is that the way FSD will be solved, just like anything that's to do with machine learning and AI, is that it just gets solved. Okay? It can't get there. It's going to take forever. Then all of a sudden, it's solved. Every little problem solved very quickly. That's how it works. It either gets it or it doesn't get it. Everything. All, the vast majority of nines. There's still going to be a march of nines, but I'm just saying massive leap, and that will be the ChatGPT moment. So, and that's what I'm expecting to happen. And I think that with this Jojo supercomputer going to 100 exaflops by the end of this year, by the end of next year, I don't think that will be an issue. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't matter if it doesn't happen. It doesn't hurt me nor my investment. So I don't know why I need to be worried about all these fears.
You don't need to well, let me clarify.
I have no
fear. You don't need to be worried about anything. I'm not worried about anything. What I'm saying is, if what you think doesn't happen, what you think is going to happen doesn't happen, it does affect you, because you're not going to get your 10 or 20x if the robotaxi doesn't happen anytime soon. And also, you're getting a credibility problem because Elon's been promising it. And if he doesn't deliver some type of robotaxi that he's been promising for over the last 5 years, that also could be a detriment to the investment, because a lot of the Tesla thesis is built on that.
Only if another company solves it, and they don't. And the likelihood today is very little. And so you have to stand on where you think it is. Do you need 1 billion miles? Do you need a supercomputer? Do you need to have the smartest minds in the world to work with you? If you don't need any of those three, and then another company can just copy you and beat you, then you made a mistake. Yeah, you're right. But
what I'm saying is, I don't think if Tesla doesn't get it, I'm not worried about anybody else getting it. I'm saying you might not get it from anyone.
Which actually brings me to the point of Xpeng. So we had 2 events this week. One was Audi wanting to build a middle class car with a Chinese entity, and this entity is actually an entity of the Xpeng group. And then Volkswagen, the mother company, including Audi, taking a 5% stake in XPeng. Do remember, XPeng was the one who copies Tesla the most, both in looks of cars, and then they suddenly had some early FSD screen model. But obviously, I mean, I think there is a law case going on between Tesla and XPeng. I don't know how that is going. I can't comment on that one. But one thing that gives me as a Tesla investor some calm on this is what Elon said in the earnings call. It's not just having it. It is developing the miles. It is having the engineers to continue it, and it needs a dojo type of data processing center so that you can actually continue to evolve it. I mean, this whole FSD is not just today a moment in time, it's more tomorrow and even more the day after and exponentially more. So even if they may have an old version of it, that doesn't give them the capacities that Tesla has. And all the other models all have this highly expensive and intrusive hardware. So I'm like you, Hubbard. I don't see anybody on the horizon. But I just wanted to point out, Volkswagen doesn't have the financial situation that allows them really to make these investments, yet they felt obliged to do it, which shows how worried they are. They went to a player that I would consider doubtful. I'm sure that 5 years ago, they would have never thought of investing into XPeng, but obviously it was they were between a stone and a hard place, having to choose somebody, and they invested there. They got an oversight role in the board. I'm sure they had asked for that to be able to monitor how XPeng's internals and decision making is going to continue to play out, because they're now bound to it, and I'm not sure they're completely comfortable with it. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I can add a few things here too. Like, this play has been run in other industries. It's been run in the mobile phone industry, for example, where a big brand OEM believes that they don't have the cost structure, they don't have the market access in a particular market. So they go and either acquire or they do something called a joint development manufacturing agreement with a Chinese partner, and to get access, basically. And I'll just say that, some of the greatest products in these categories were not created in these manners. It does allow participation in areas that they may not have been able to participate before. But if you don't solve these core cost structure issues, they're going to be carried with you. And now you bring in this partner, and this partner needs to make money. So this partner's already competing in China under their own brand name. And they're selling directly to consumers, and they're acquiring margins. And now they're going to sell to you as a big box brand, and they're going to take a cut of that, and then you're going to sell in region. And I just don't know how they're going to get the right margin structure. Again, allow them to participate, but I'm not sure it's going to allow them to win. So I don't think this is a winning move. This is how do you participate in a particular market?
I was even wondering whether they didn't do it for the access to that old FSD data system. Because, I mean, they're in such a particularly bad situation software-wise, Volkswagen, given their ambitions, not going anywhere, losing money more and more, losing clients more and more. So I was just, I was still from this old world where German car makers didn't need to purchase anything Chinese to learn about things, right? This is crazy. This is a completely mind-boggling situation.
It's a changing of the guard. But this is, Volkswagen has zero presence in China, and they needed to last-ditch effort partner with Xiaopeng and then be able to take the Volkswagen brand, the logo, and put it onto a Xiaopeng car. This is crazy that they had to go to that route, but they had no choice. That was the way they are.
So that's how you pronounce it? Xiaopeng? Xiaopeng, yes. You pronounce it? Yes. Oh, I'm learning. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
XPeng for us regular people.
Exactly, for us idiots. There we go, the commoners. Thank you, Herbert.
Well, let's move on to something more fun, which is, what event do you guys expect is going to happen next for Tesla? Which one will they announce first? Is it going to be the CyberTruck announcement of this is the next, this is the date that we're going to do the CyberTruck delivery date. Is it going to be they're going to announce the AI Day 3, or are they going to announce the Highland Model 3 revision? What do you guys think? Start with you, Jeff.
I think I'd like to say that they're going to do the CyberTruck first, and I think the Highland may be part of that event. Maybe it doesn't garner its own event, and maybe that's kind of the surprise at the end of that event. Not sure, but I think those two are going to be pretty close. And then, another AI day. Again, they use these mostly for recruiting. And remember, going back to Elon's, 3 axioms to be successful in AI, you need the talent, you need the compute resources, and you need the data. And the AI day is their way to get access to talent. I went to last year's AI day in person, and it was a lot of students from local universities. That was most of where Tesla did their outreach, and then they had some investors and partners in the crowd. But I think it's those 3.
What do you think, Jeff or Christian?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. I would be excited for AI Day personally. I would love to see how that robot's developing and what new things. So later this year, if we get an AID3 or whenever we get it, that's what I'm really, for me, I just love the bot. I think that to me is something that, I love everything. Don't get me wrong, but I try to think about these things in probabilities. To me, the bot is something that I can see and that people would love to have that as an assistant, a helper. Businesses would love it to be, a security guard watching something. It's just, to me, it brings so much value to society. And so does, being able to a car to drive itself for safety, and it could definitely limit all the deaths on the highways. We have tens of thousands of people dying all the time. It's terrible and tragic. But to me, it's just super for like the next 10 to 20 years. To me, bot is just something that I could just see as limitless, right? Because we talk about labor as being like infinite, right? Everyone could use labor, especially now as we see population decline. We see people retiring. We're getting older. Some people, dropped out of the system. This could be such a value creator that you want to be invested in, that technology of robots, right, at scale. And the only one that I can see is doing it, and the beautiful, look of the bot. Tesla always gets it beautiful on design. I love the look of that thing. The way they're going about it is just, on a different scale. I can't understand it, but I can try to learn about it. And I just love watching it and watching the progress. So I just think, for me, it's AI Day. And of course, CyberTruck will be exciting, but for me, it's definitely the bot. And I love to see the progress on that.
Alexandra?
Okay, mine is a bit different. I don't think we'll have a day for Highland. I think Highland will just be there with new specs. CyberTruck, I hope, is going to be a big event, and I hope they really make something wild out of it. A truck event, right? Cowboys, everything, whatever you want to do that, like the rodeo they did last year. And instead of AI Day, and I don't know whether they need that, whether they're still, in the phase where they're recruiting heavily, I would like an FSD Day. And so the FSD Day would be showing FSD is ready for prime time with a more uneducated public and what the benefits are, and bringing it over in a language that not only tech early adopters understand, but the general public. So if I could choose, I'd rather have an FSD day than an AI day. But again, if they need recruiting, I can understand that it could be an AI day.
Nice. Okay. I do think it's going to be AI Day. It's going to be announced soon. It might happen in October. Some people were saying, because if the Cybertruck is happening in September, it makes more sense to do AI Day through October, but they'll announce it very soon, I think. So that's interesting. Who here is going to be upgrading? So Tesla announced that there's a one-time only, just in Q3, that you're able to transfer your FSD. If you bought FSD in your current car, you can transfer it to a new car, but one time only in Q3. So I think, Jeff, you looked into it. Can you tell us more what you found about that?
Yeah, I'm stepping through the process now. I've done there's a form that you do with Tesla. I'm just going through the process right now. What I'm going to be interested in is, I evaluated my trade-in a month or so ago because I was actually in the market for one of the inventory units, and that didn't come through in June. So now, this deal was announced on the earnings call, and I got interested again. So I ordered the car. So now I'm going to be interested in, I had a trade-in value, less than 30 days ago. What is it going to be now? Because, when you do the trade-in now and they remove FSD as part of the trade-in. So my last couple of trade-ins, I never really saw the FSD value on the trade-in side. I never really experienced like, wow, oh my God, there's, because I was always buying my cars ahead of like at a lower FSD price point. And by the time I sold them, FSD had doubled or more. So I'll be interested to see how they value FSD. But I mean, there's a lot of reasons to upgrade if you're kind of techie. And, they've done a lot of things with the car just in the last year alone, depending on which model you're looking at. So yeah, I'm interested in it, but I want to see how they value the trade-in and how the whole process works.
I'm confused. What do you mean by value the trade-in of the FSD? Because the whole point is that you buy a new car, then you take the FSD that you already have with your old car and you transfer it over. So there is no valuing of FSD.
Right. I want to see what the value of the car is on the trade-in without FSD, because when I've gotten my previous trade-in values before, it's been with FSD, and quite frankly, I couldn't tell that FSD was in that trade-in value, to be honest with you.
There is the Tesla purchasing back cars when you sell them back your old car when you purchase a new one has hardly been competitive these last couple of months. They don't want the old cars. They rather prefer you sell it on the private market yourself and come back for the purchase of a new one. I'm not saying they're not doing it, but it's the price they are giving you for it is non-competitive. And so, yes, you can then transfer your FSD, but you can also transfer it if you have sold it on the private market. You just need to keep them informed. They will then deactivate on your car, on your privately sold car FSD. You're selling it without it, and they will upload FSD newest version on your new car.
So, like a good supply chain person, I'm going to get 2 quotes as to Alexandra's points. And so I'll get a private trade-in quote as well as Tesla's. In the private market, I've seen some pretty good trade-in values actually recently. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. Xander is typing in saying that the reasons why you want to trade up is that there's the new cars have hardware 4. It's got the Ryzen chip. There's a new warranty period and a new car smell. The cons are higher interest rates, sale price, and the taxes paid. And the other pro is a single piece casting. So it is very, very tempting, right? To take your current FSD and move it up.
Quick point, Herbert. All you said was great. That went over my head, and any new retail Tesla person going on the website has no idea about any of that stuff. They want to buy a Tesla because it's a lot like you guys love this stuff. Most people don't know and don't care. If you want to sell Teslas, you got to go to the basics, safety, no gas. It's a beautiful drive. They are the drivers for the new people to do 5-6 million cars. I understand what you're saying, and I love it. But that stuff nobody cares about except like 2% of the people on Twitter.
Yeah, the early adopters and the Twitter users. Yeah.
Yeah, this is strictly for people upgrading their cars, not new buyers. Yeah, they don't get
which I do believe is the intention. I think this is a nugget that Elon and Tesla are giving to the early adopters who have purchased FSD early or currently. I mean, no matter what the price, but to give them a chance to now have it on a newer hardware model. And it's a thank you. And the ones that want to do that, it's a nice window. 2 more months, get it done.
Which is a great point, Christian. So let's get to the next topic, which is the stock market. Although I'm still going to talk about Tesla here. I wanted to ask you guys the question of what is the biggest concern that a retail investor has about buying Tesla stock, and not somebody who's following Twitter, not somebody who knows Tesla so well, just the general average Joe who's an investor out there sees Tesla. What is their biggest concern? And then the same thing about institutional. What are their biggest concern about Tesla? So why don't we start with you, Christian, because you are the perfect person to ask that question.
So I'll just give you my opinion. So like when you buy a stock or any type of investment, there always has to be some type of scenario. Okay, what could go wrong, right? And just in general. So when you talk about Tesla, I think a lot will go right, and that's why I'm invested. But what I'll say is the reason anyone, whether it's retail or institutional, might have a risk is, and I kind of talked about it a little bit. This is just a normal, if you're just a regular investor, this is what you think about, right? So Tesla makes money, right? They were growing their earnings like crazy. We've come to a point where that leg, which drove Tesla from a valuation of say 50 billion to a 1.2 trillion valuation, now it's come back down and then it's back up to 800 billion, say. The reason that occurred was mainly because they became profitable. Their margins were extraordinary for an automaker in the mid-20s. And then you had all these other ancillary things for the future that also gave you excitement to buy the stock. So what has occurred now is decreasing margins. And I get it, it's okay, but you're making less money. And so the risk would be that Elon pushes that envelope to get cars in people's hands, which is great, drives units at the expense of profitability. And the risk would be that autonomy takes longer or it gets pushed out even farther, which could drop the earnings. And when you're earning, say, $10 billion a year, and maybe that happens for the next couple of years, and you don't get this accelerator on the software side or some other thing that's really taking your business up, your valuation on a multiple basis gets really, really high, right? And the thing that could bring it down, some investors, again, these are just regular people, they don't love Tesla, but they happen to be invested in the company, the Vanguards of the world, or regular investors just like us, they may say, wow, I don't really see the accelerator yet in the next year or two, and this thing is trading at a certain valuation, and the earnings is decreasing on a year-over-year basis, and that continues maybe for another year. Some investors might say, I don't like the risk reward here, and they would maybe pull back on their investment or maybe look for some of a different opportunity until the valuation got more appealing. So that's all I would say. The risk is the earnings doesn't keep up with the valuation, which makes the stock look very expensive. You don't get these other things coming through, and then you can see a sell-off in the equity.
Alexandra?
Yeah, let me take it from here. To any retail investor, and I've said this now constantly over 12, 15 months since we've been doing CyberBulls together and even before. A retail investor should not invest in a stock like Tesla if he doesn't have at least 3 to 5 years to make his money. Okay? Tesla is no stock where you can deal with it on a 3 to 6 months basis. It just doesn't work. I mean, there are people that are watching the stock every day. That's one thing, and they'll love to play and they're trading. Fair enough. Each their own. But if you're a retail investor and you're preparing your retirement, or you just convinced that this is a company you want to be in because you like the product or you like Elon or whatever, only do it if you have a long time horizon. Don't do it for the short term. And that brings me to the difference with institutional investors. Institutional investors, they build their models, and they may build their models out for 5, 7, 10 years, but then they discount them back to the present, right? And then they give them valuations, earnings per share, whatever, the numbers we always see Gary citing when he does his tweets. And then they are flabbergasted or very unsettled when something changes, when suddenly Tesla announces they will lower the prices again. Why is that so big for them? Because suddenly one of the key numbers that they have extrapolated out 10 years and then discounted back the 10 years changes. So the whole model changes much more than needed, just because the way they model things and push them up and bring them down again is based on a couple of key numbers. And so if the key number changes a bit, the whole thing falls apart, goes down further than necessary or whatever. So that's the problem with modeling, and that's the problem with institutional investors. They all look at the same stuff, and so they all react to the same information in the same way because that's how they are trained. So I keep an eye on institutional investors. We have a couple of them that are different. ARK Invest is very different. Doesn't mean they don't trim from time to time, because they also need to fulfill the wishes of their clients who are more typical institutional investors than they are. Their clients buy the ARK stuff like you would put a little bit of pepper on your egg and saying, okay, I add a little bit something, so I add a little bit of ARK, but they still have to listen to them. But the big lot of institutional investors, the Vanguards of this world, the Fidelities of this world, and whatever, they are still slightly undervalued for Tesla because they're uncomfortable with all this. They don't like the still vulnerable stability of Tesla stock, right? I mean, we've been at 100 only 6-7 months ago. We're now touching 300. We may go down to 250. We may go up to 400. The volatility of this stock, the way that certain tweets of Elon can play a role, or the certain delays can happen, institutionals don't want to deal with that. They have alternatives which they feel are more smooth and calmer waters, and so it's a completely different approach. They will miss it because when Tesla rises, it rises steep and quickly. And as a retail investor, being just passively in there and waiting and sitting it out is usually the best plan you can have. Dollar cost average, if you have fresh money to put it in, just smooth it out on that side, but that's all you can do.
Okay, Jeff?
I like those points. The original question was around the Tesla price action or investing.
No, the risk of the stock.
Why are retail and institutional not investing in Tesla? What's the concern they have?
Retail is investing in Tesla. I think the institutions, I don't know. I mean, well, first off, there's instability in a lot of names and a lot of stocks. If you look at Meta back in November, it was an $87 stock, and now look where it is. If you look at Nvidia and where it was and where it is, I mean, I think part of it has to come back to the management and just sometimes how things are positioned. But I think overall, Tesla has. If I look at all of those companies and I look at their growth and their growth projections over the next 5 years, and I look at Tesla and I look at what they're building from a portfolio perspective, I'm most excited about what Tesla is building in terms of generating, significant annualized returns in terms of revenue and earnings on the stock. I can't think of another company that's building something. I mean, you go through them one by one. You've got to look and see like what is going to be the return on some of these things, like the metaverse, for example. What is going to be the return? Who's going to make the money in AI? Like, you have silicon providers, you've got software providers, you have infrastructure providers. Where's the money going to be made in that over the next 5 to 10 years? I think that needs to be sorted out. There's definitely going to be money to be made, but in terms of the risk, yes, there's risk in any name, and there's certainly risk in Tesla. But I think every investor has to kind of look within and understand like what their own profile is. I don't think that there's one answer that I can give you. I can just give you my opinion, but my opinion isn't for every investor. My opinion may be for one type of investor. I don't think I own or know the opinion. It's one of the criticisms I actually have of public figures giving investment advice. I just don't think that there's one bit of investment advice for every single person. I think everyone's got different risk profiles. For sure, some people, Tesla may be the best risk-adjusted investment of any stock out there based on their age and based on where they're at. If you're someone that's in the last 5 years or 10 years of your investment portfolio and you want to clamp things down, then it may not be the name. So it really depends more on the person and what their goals are. But in terms of the name itself, I feel very good about. I think what they've done over the last 5 years is diversify away from being an auto-only company to being a serious energy and AI player company. So now you've got. Right now, they're showing flashes of the ability to basically dominate the auto market. They're showing that ability and what they're doing in margins and what they're doing in share growth. And then what you see, if you take that capability and how it applies to energy in terms of the AI work, the autopilot computers actually being used on the energy side, and how that can apply, and all their work on batteries and energy storage. And then you look at what they're investing in on AI. I can't think of a company that actually has all of those attributes under one roof. And that's what I'm kind of looking for. There's actual diversity with this name, if you think about it, but you do need to have, flexibility and time horizon to deal with it.
Okay. Yeah, my thought is just the one reason why I think retail investors, I like what you said, Jeff, which is obviously it's not the right stock for everybody. I'm not saying it's the greatest stock, but for the people who don't, why they're not investing, I think it's the biggest reason is misinformation. So I have a friend who drives a Tesla and tells me that, well, I think the competition's coming. I think Teslas are priced too high. And so I was like, what do you mean by Tesla? And so we talked about it and he shared more information. And then he realized that not only is the competition not coming, even if they do come, the market is so big that the growth of the company will still be there. But it's like just misinformation. People don't understand Tesla, the full story. And the same thing with institutionals. They seem to only have the auto business lined up. They have not yet put in any of the other line items there, which is, as an investor, that's what I'm betting on. I'm betting on that these other line items will come into play, will pad the margins, will grow earnings like crazy, and everything will just, expand from there. So, and that's, yeah. Okay. So that was great. Thank you all for that. So let's move on to the next topic, which is a little bit of fun. I wanted to ask you guys, with the Twitter brand being removed and now being replaced with the X brand, some people are saying that this is the greatest branding mistake ever in the world. We're going to cover which person are you. Alexandra will explain some different personality types. And if we have time, we'll talk about if you guys think that there's aliens exist or not. These are society calls. So let's start with X branding. What do you guys think? I mean, was this a total disaster? Did Elon just make a massive mistake switching a beautiful brand? People love Twitter. What a great brand. And I'm going to send you tweets. I mean, this has captured the society's attention and just seeped into society like crazy. Now you're taking this away. What do you guys think?
I could go. So look, this is me just putting real quick, having some quick thoughts. Elon is impulsive, right? He's probably thinking it. He loves the letter X. Twitter, I saw some things saying that this name change, again, I'm just kind of reporting what's out there. It doesn't mean I think this right now. Like that caused another $10 to $15 billion reduction in valuation. So like we're going to value Twitter like, or X now, like it's zero. It's not worth anything. We're knocking it down. So it's like, I don't think it's a disaster. I do think there is some, trouble when Twitter has been around a long time. Tweets it flows off the thing, right? What am I doing now? I'm Xing. I get it. I was playing with it. But there is something to say for you were building something. He wants to change it to something completely different. So I get it. So you want to just rip it off, and that's what Elon does. I'm getting rid of this blue bird. We're going to stamp it X. We're doing payments. We're doing everything unconventional. We're going to turn this thing into the WeChat of China, and you're not going to need any other app in the world except mine. I get it. And if anyone can do it, it's him. But there doesn't mean there's going to be growing pains, right? Like, what's the ad? Are advertisers go, I'm on X? Like, they used to tweet. I know they're still having trouble with ads. You can tell that they're not getting the advertisement. Elon talked about last month not being as strong as they want. A lot of people, again, it's not whether we agree or not. There's a lot of people out there, smart people, that say that this hurts the brand, this hurts advertising, want to come on because it's another uncertainty thing. So we have to realize that even though we might not agree with it, we have to step out and say, well, these are what people are saying, and it does affect their judgment on whether they want to put an advertisement on Twitter, now X. So there is some ramifications to it. Will they get through it? Yes. Will there be some, bump and grind along the way the next few months and advertisers not sure? Of course. And that's going to be a struggle. And that's what Linda Yaccarino was brought in for, to get some of these adverts lined up and try to smooth Elon. But it doesn't look like Elon stepped away very much. He's still very active. He still seems like he's the CEO of Twitter X. So, I like the move, but it is a risky move, and it could, throw back things kind of up in the air for the next 6 months until they smooth it all out. The letter X is owned by, I think people were saying there's a lot of companies that have that X to their name. I don't know how that plays into it. I know there was the letter X locked up on the Twitter, and they're getting things saying that Elon just took that handle. Again, this is all information, though, that the media is doing. And I follow this stuff nonstop. So I don't know if it's true or not, to be honest, but I saw it locked. And now, yeah, so educate me, Alexandra. What's going on with X, Steve? I know you love X. I know you love Twitter. So do I. But I'm just trying to be, realistic about it. Do you think that this is going to cause some issues?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Twitter was a 17-year-old brand. So yes, it has some history. It has some emotions to it, no doubt about it. But I think it was also time to draw a line and say, that's it. Whether that was the best moment 4 weeks later, 5 months earlier, who knows? It just happened now. As to advertisers and Linda's role, I follow Linda's Twitter quite a lot, and she has been with Paris Hilton, one of the biggest influencers, not in our world, but in the Instagram world, 2 days ago. She was with Disney yesterday. She's very clever at posting tweets, X's, whatever you want to call them now, with future advertisers or where she goes to pitch. I don't know exactly what's happening there, but you see that she is after the big accounts. The sport events accounts already locked in, no doubt. She's talked about those, but there's much more to come. We all know X is going to become the payment platform. That's where the money is, right? So the question for Elon was, do I draw this X line now? And I don't know how many more months it takes until this becomes a payment platform, or maybe he does, because those payment licenses were asked for more than a year ago now. So they may actually be in the coming. He may know that they're in the coming. And so he drew this line very well knowing that maybe the payment function is ready to go in 2 months, 3 months. What do I know? So it's very difficult for us to speculate. Now, let me get to the trademarks. There are more than 900 X-related trademarks out there. Why are there so many? So the first point is, if there are 900 out there, 899 are not making a war against the 900th, right? They can all cohabit. Why is that? Because when you trademark, I do a lot of trademarks for my clients here in my day job, you can trademark a couple of things. Either the name by itself, like the name Tesla in the category cars, or the name Tesla in the category fast food restaurants, right? Then the name is protected. You can also trademark a logo. That's a sign trademark. The letter X, like the letter A and the letter B and the letter C, cannot be trademarked from nobody in the world. So the 900 X trademarks that are out there are all sign trademarks for a certain logo in a certain category by a certain owner. So you have the Xbox, you have the X whatever, XP software for Microsoft, you have X whatever in what Meta thing. They're all sign trademarks for a certain logo, for a certain product in a certain group. But you can have a second X sign mark in the same group because all it has to be is look different. It is the logo that has the trademark. So all that crap about trademark, you can just ignore. Nobody has a trademark on X and nobody will ever have it. Elon will not have it either because you cannot trademark a single letter.
So what's the business going to be called?
But it's called X
This is
Corp,
X.
but it is not a trademark X. That's it. Yeah.
So I think that the X Corp rebranding from Twitter is a brilliant move. I think that he had to make the move. He explained it in a tweet. Then he said that it's important for him to do it because this is way beyond just tweeting anymore. I think the way to do this is don't change the word tweet. Just leave it to tweet. But everything else, the financial payment, everything will be X. X is going to be a massive brand. He did ruffle some feathers when he said that X, believe me, trust me, right? Mark my words. He said X is going to become the biggest brand in the world. And then people go, what about Tesla?
He said brand. He said brand, but he didn't said company, right? So I do believe there's a difference here between brand and company that we have to understand. X can be the brand for lots of things, right? Again, a non-trademark brand, which is obviously an issue, but that's another question. But that doesn't mean it becomes the largest company in the world. Tesla will become the largest company in the world.
Yeah, but he shouldn't
think
confuse
he's turning. I think with X is he's creating a platform where if anybody that creates content can actually monetize it and distribute it. And I think that's a very powerful thing that really doesn't exist in other places. And I think he wants to create something that's so easy to use, but that when you go viral with your content, you can monetize it in a significant way. And that's why you're starting to see flashes of potential big name people, whether from the news industry that could be lured over to start distributing content on Twitter. So I think we're at the beginnings of this. I'm not a brand expert. I'm not going to say one thing over there. I just know that the Twitter brand, in my view, had a lot of taint next to it in terms of censorship and in terms of issues in the past. So, going to a new brand and starting fresh, there may be some value in doing that. I don't think the answer to this question is going to be available this week. It may take some time to play out, and it depends on what they do to actually develop the brand.
You know what I would have called it? I just thought of this in the last 5 seconds. Twitter X.
Okay.
Twitter X would have killed it. Twitter X.
Getting it.
Boom.
You're not getting it.
No, that would have been a good name.
Twitter is old-fashioned.
Why would you
Twitter X?
Twitter? Why? What?
Like your hoodie.
Twitter X.
Same old-fashioned.
Don't understand you. Understand. Okay. All right. Let's move on to another topic, which is Alexander. You wanted to talk about this thing about. You said here. I want to explain how we are all different and need to be addressed differently. How would you define yourself? And then you ask people to vote and retweet for maximum exposure, explanations, image, and comments. So there's red, yellow, green, and blue. Right off the bat, you can see most people who've answered your question was blue. What are you referring to? So this is the list. So when I read this, I thought that I was more of a yellow.
You are.
Talkative, enthusiastic, persuasive, creative. Oh, yes, it's me. It's me. But I could say this, about everything, right? Because I'm also pretty red. I mean, obviously, I do a lot of the things in the red as well when I read these words. But why don't you go ahead and explain what this is?
Yeah. So my goal here was not, and I think this is actually the worst graph, if you can put the next one up. My goal was not to classify people. I'm actually not a big believer in these personality tests. But what it is the results of my poll, which I predicted. I said, before I started the poll, I put below it in the second comment, I bet here the audience, my Twitter audience is mainly blue. Why would I was able to do so? Because I'm different than most of the people. That's why people love me or hate me. I'm clearly a red. But one thing I've learned in my life, I am. But one thing I've learned in my career, I was always doing sales, right? I either sold information or ratings or houses or now visa consultation services or whatever. But I was always in the sales business. So I always had to adapt to my clients. And I'm actually, one of my side hustle day jobs is I train law firms how to onboard their clients, because lawyers are typically green, and green people don't understand that there are 3 other colors out there that have completely different patterns of behavior. So my whole goal is not saying you have to be clearly a red or blue or green or yellow. I don't believe in that. My goal is saying when you have somebody that has to listen to you, think that person may be different than you, be more extrovert, introvert, active, passive, reserved, and implementator, or somebody that is more relationship orientated, or somebody that's more task oriented and issue orientated. So those are those 4 colors. That's an easy compass to read it. This is all from a book called Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson that I show here. And Surrounded by Idiots. Yeah. And it's a great book. It's an easy read. And I mean, there are people, again, not everything in this book is perfect, but it makes it understandable how it all works. So why is this so important to me, and why did I do that poll? Because the people I have, as followers and I love dearly, I clearly understand that certain of my tweets resonate more than others. And so after doing this now for 2 years and analyzing myself, I realized that lots of my followers are blue. why is it so clear? Because, I mean, first of all, my Twitterverse is 75% male, but most of those people come from STEM careers, right? They're engineers, they're mathematicians, they're people. You may want to flip 2 more if you don't mind, because I'm using this analytical tool that gives me information, information about the demographics of my followers. And so it was very clear long before I even thought of, redoing this poll. I'd done one a year ago, to me, that my audience is mainly blue. So what do? Well, I make sure that the number of tweets I put out, I use a language that blues can understand, just because I was trained like that. That's what I do in my job. And that's what, that's how I adapt. And it's easy for red people to adapt, as it is easy as well for yellow people. There is no surprise, Herbert, that you as a yellow want to do YouTube channels, want to communicate, want to bring this optimistic message over, spend too much time on that because you're very optimistic about it. Oh, you do. I mean, come on, how many hours a week? There are not even enough hours in the week of what you put
I am red. I am red. I want to be red.
Well,
I am blue-green. I'm blue-green.
Exactly, you are, because you're much more analytical, and you're rather introvert, and rather, we obviously get you to be extrovert. But the thing is, when Tesla wants to communicate, when Elon wants to communicate in an earnings call, the journalists in there, the analysts in there are all either blue or green, most likely green, right? So you have
what is
to
Elon?
address the green.
He's
Elon is between red and blue. He's between red and blue. He's task-oriented and issue-oriented. He doesn't care about relationship. Yellow and green people care about relationship between people. He doesn't. He's on the upper thing. And he has actually, when he addresses retail investor, he's actually very extrovert. He loves talking to retail investors. When he has to talk to analysts and finance people and journalists, he goes introvert. He just shuts down. Again, I don't think that everybody is just one color. I think there are nuances to it. But the problem is that for people who are only task orientated, they can't relate to the relationship people. There is just a barrier, and you either train them or you take them off when you need the relationship people. So the earnings call addresses a certain number of journalists that do nothing else than earnings calls, financial analysts that do nothing else than earnings calls, and then they suddenly get served by Elon, and they go berserk. They don't understand. He could speak Chinese. It wouldn't make a difference. They don't get it. They don't get it.
Come on, Alexandra. Most CEOs are going to be are yellow, very extroverted, very much like that, and so they can't talk to analysts either, right? It's like flashy.
No, they can. The CEO. Oh, sorry, I just want to say this. The CEO is the relationship person. They're the one that's supposed to support, put out the brand, massage everyone. They're definitely. I read that book. CEO.
That's why I'm CEO.
Is the people person.
Okay,
Are you a people person?
I give you 2 examples. For Amazon, Jeff Bezos never attended earnings calls. Right. He didn't want to waste his time with these people. He didn't want to have to adapt to these people. Tim Cook, I never invested in Apple, but Tim Cook is the perfect adapter. The earnings call from Apple are the most boring earnings call you can imagine, because he knows that what's this public wants. You just bore it down. They take their notes, off they go, goodbye. Next one. So the thing is, the message I want to get over, know what your audience is, adapt to that. And that actually goes through to quite a lot of themes by Tesla. Tesla is now not anymore an early adopter car brand. You now suddenly have the commoners of this world who want to buy Teslas, and they need to be educated. They need to be brought to the subject. Same for retail investors into the stock. You have to speak to them differently. Now, does it have to be advertising on that? That's not my question. But the communication has to address the person who is listening. And Tesla still has to improve a lot on that side.
Why don't the 3 of us guess what Jeff is, and then Jeff will tell us what he is. I think he's the yellow. Go ahead, Alexandra.
I think he's blue.
Yeah, I think he's blue.
Jeff.
I don't know if I can be put in a box.
Oh,
you're in one right now. You're in one right now. You're on the bottom.
No, but I do like the background surrounded by idiots. I think Alexander should put that up behind her, and
you think you're
make that her
idiots?
Make that our background for the next CyberBulls.
Surrounded by it. What are you, Jeff? Come on.
Come on, Jeff. Play the game.
I don't know. I think if you put that back up, I think I'm more introverted, to be honest with you. I know I'm on YouTube a lot, but I think yeah.
I think you're blue. I think you're very number oriented.
Right.
I'm an introvert. Yeah. Me and Jeff, I think are
green.
similar.
No, green
Jeff's
is
a
more
lot
boring
smarter.
Oh,
we
I
have
read that as
similar sense of humor.
I read that as results oriented, not relation oriented.
No. You're task and issue oriented, I think. I think you're blue.
Yep.
Mostly blue.
See, I'm a big
It's not
thinker.
like
I'm a
I'm not
big
task and
thinker
issue.
guy. I don't like details. I like big generalities. I like learning a lot about a lot. Yeah.
And no
I can eat
pineapples
both.
on the pizza.
No pineapples.
Analytics and financial. Okay. That was a lot of fun, but very,
That was
very
good. I like
informative.
that.
Thank you, Alexandra. You explained
You're most
exactly what
welcome.
the problem was with Elon. You're also explained what you're doing as Twitter. Brilliant how you're approaching your audience. Wow, that was fun. Yeah, last topic, if we have any chance at all. I mean, what do you guys think about this alien thing? Doesn't exist, right? Wait, so
No.
Tesla investors should actually be the people that believe. So first of all, my answer is that aliens do exist, and
What?
100% they exist. 100% they exist, but they don't. They have not come to Earth. That's the whole part about sightings and UFO sightings here in the Earth. That's not happened. It's ridiculous. But aliens absolutely exist in the universe.
There was a tweet like, "What would you need after hearing that that debrief in Congress? What else would you need in terms of proof?" And my one tweet response was, "An alien carcass hauled into that session."
Yeah.
To me, would have been helpful.
People will say
That's
it's fake.
pretty much where I'm at.
There was nothing.
Yeah.
It's just talk. Talk is cheap.
That guy, whoever said that, looked like not very bright. It looked like he was a crazy person. I don't think there's any aliens. And even Elon, who loves space and all that, says he's never even come close to it. And every year that goes by that we don't see it, he becomes more and more thinking that we're maybe the only thing here. And that's why he's doing that light of consciousness thing, because if our flame goes out, then there might not be anything else.
He did clarify that it was there's no one near us in this galaxy, because obviously there's going to be aliens everywhere, but just not accessible to us. So it's still rare. But
I disagree with that. I don't know why there has to be alien. Why does there have to be
I
alien?
don't think so either.
Why does there have to be alien? It doesn't have
all
to be.
Statistics and numbers. Do you guys know how many galaxies there are? There are 400 billion planets.
I'm not saying you can't have some form of life, but an alien would look like us. Well, why does it have to be an alien? It could be just like a little thing coming out of the ground. I mean,
would he look like you, Christian?
Do they wear hats?
No. Do they? Under
I wear a
Armour
hat.
hat?
Okay.
I did last time, right? You're right.
Yeah.
I don't believe in aliens. I just don't. And I do believe this is always very handy at very strange moments when you feel that politics, no matter which side, become a little bit heated. Wow, we have a new alien story. It just becomes again and again and again. I hate this whole thing.
Not on Earth. Yeah. All right. That was fun. Thank you guys. That was a lot of fun. I appreciate this. CyberBulls next weekend. And then you're going to the Tesla takeover. You're there.
Yes.
Are you going to be able to take video and share with us your daily activities?
We will see. Apparently, they don't stream anything, but they film and we'll put it out later. I'm now on a Saturday at 1:20 with Farzad and Brian and Amy. So the four of us are talking to the subject, where's Tesla in 3, 5, and 10 years? Off we go.
Do you know that I'm the one? I was supposed to be doing that panel with Farzad.
I know.
And I'm not able to go anymore, and I came up with that topic. So it's like, did you know that I came up with that topic?
And you see, it took 2 ladies to replace you.
What? No. 3. 2 ladies.
you got to get me out. You got to get me to that Tesla takeover. Come on, get me out there.
Come here, Christian.
You're an introvert. You wouldn't come.
He's not an introvert. Look at him.
You wouldn't go. You would just end up making an excuse at the last
It
second.
has to be a certain, let's just say certain accommodations.
Oh my.
Diva, like diva accommodations.
Only the green M&Ms in the in his dressing
Exactly.
room.
He replaced his crown with his Under Armour hat today. Excuse me.
What I have to deal with. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. Tune in next time. Bye.
Cheers.